Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Islam and the needs for time. When we look at Islam as a religion and we see in its chronological line of its progressing and development and advancement and everything else, was it in line with the historical events that occurred in each time? And throughout the years, has there ever been a time where Islam as a religion was not able to meet up to the requirements and demands of that particular time? When we say Islam and the requirements of time, or when we say Islam and the challenges of today's society, it's because that there could be a misconception presented that Islam as a religion is one thing in its historical parts, and society and the continuously evolving elements of our civilization is something else. And therefore, the demands of today's society is something far away from what it is that a religion was introduced by in that particular chronological era. And that's why when we look at religion and history, there might be a kind of misconception arising that is there any kind of cohesion between religion and history, or religion and today's society? Unfortunately, because this kind of misconception was built and matured in such a way, some people might kind of understand or believe that Islam is not for this age. Islam is archaic, Islam is backward, Islam is old, Islam catered for people living in the Arabian Peninsula, and therefore if we wanted to accept Islam, we need to accept a reformed, progressed, modern kind of Islam. Now, of course, here, even though these slogans might sound very catchy, but at the same time, we need to see what it is that we are able to take from all of this. Islam is one thing, and time and the need for time is another thing. Islam in itself can be seen on its own, and the ever-changing elements of a society needs to be dealt with on its own. And one of the things that we need to understand is that who said that we cannot choose both? This is where the misconception arises, that you have Islamic religion as a historical era is concerned, and on the same time, modernity and society and today's world. And like as if these conflict with one another. They cannot have any level of cohesion with each other. So it's either you accept the archaic laws of Islam, or you live with modernity. But if you insist on having Islam, then you need to have a new reformed kind of version of Islam. We know that as Muslims, we believe that Islam is an eternal religion, and its laws or its principles are fixed and do not change. As for society and as for the nature of time, it changes and evolves. So how are we able to combine between the two? Here, the assumption is that everything in nature changes and evolves. and everything in time changes and evolves. This is where the fallacy can be clearly distinguished. The eternality of Islam is one thing, and the dynamics of elements or factors of Islam that conform with zaman and makan, with time and place, is something else. There are foundations in Islam that cannot be changed, similar to what exists in the nature of a human being. There are certain things in a human being that has not changed throughout mankind, throughout the history of creation. A simple example for that is greed. A simple example for that is wanting one's own interests. A simple thing for that is wanting to interact. How about the Pythagoras theories that he has, the Pythagorean theorem? Or how about some piece of arithmetic or mathematical kind of equation, that hasn't changed throughout the history of humankind. So there are things that are established, that are fixed, that are permanent, that are a part of existence. So when we see how Islam has expanded, how Islam has interacted, how Islam has advanced, how advancement was a part of Islam. Islam was at its peak 700 and 800 and 900 years ago as far as science and technology and everything else is concerned. That all came from the religion Islam and religious Islamic scholars. They used the dynamics of Islam for them to be able to meet the requirements of that particular time in its development and expanding and everything else. And the same can be said about the contemporary world as well. The sad part here is that something that feeds this fallacy, or something that strengthens this misconception that there is a conflict between Islam in its archaic existence and today's modern society, is unfortunately that there is a neglect of knowledge and understanding and religious progress within the Muslim society itself. And a second issue that has strengthened or fed this fallacy and misconception is the powerful influence of enemies of Islam that unfortunately have brought Islam and its reputation so down and low, where they don't even have an opportunity to be able to voice something. If you keep on getting bombarded all the time, then you won't even have an opportunity to stand up and defend yourself, let alone explain anything about it. Look at the very simple word Sharia and how much of a negative connotation it has, unfortunately, in today's world. And so when Islam as a religion continues to be attacked and it being branded as being out of date or backward or not compliant to today's society, this is of course going to have an effect on the way we build our mindset for some of us. And that's why the major fallacy is, when it comes to these requirements of time and the needs of time, that these requirements and needs need to be something new. No, that is not the case. And the old needs to be out with the old, in with the new. No, that's not the case. There are many things that are old, if we could say, but have its principal establishment in the very existence of humankind. Why is it that, for example, some people might believe that, because there is a decaying of a building or decaying of a civilization or a passing of a century, therefore things need to change. But in reality, if we really look at the essence of human beings, the essence of what it is that we are looking at, they haven't changed and they will not change. Yes, they will come in different forms, they will come in different images, but the essence itself will always be there. And that's why when we look at things, as I mentioned, like greed or respect or honor or things like that, or social functioning and things like that, that's always going to be there. So as far as the Islamic law is concerned, the spirit of Islamic law is always going to be there. However, it's going to cater, in its dynamics, it's going to cater to the requirements and the needs of each civilization or each time based on the principles and the fundamentals that are used within that area, within that subject of Sharia and law and fiqh and jurisprudence and ijtihad and things like that. Even though we might see Islam to be in a particular era, or it being formed in a particular era, but in our meta-temporal understanding or in our meta-material understanding, we can derive many things from that. An example for this, in the early years of Islam, for example, maybe people would barter when it comes to exchanging of merchandise and property. Then coins were introduced, and we know that Islam was at the forefront of usage of coins and currency and things like that. And then after coins came paper, and then after paper currency came credit cards, and Islam has dealt with that. Islam has catered to all of these particular things. But there are things that Islam sees to be a red line, like riba, for example, usury, that's a red line. Like bribes, that's a red line. Riba and usury existed 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, and it still exists today. The take that Islam has on that is exactly the same. But when it comes to something like the banking system, it's evolved, it's changed based on the ijtihad and things like that. Here, the important thing is the direction in Islam and the requirements of time. The direction is always going to be the same. Even though you might renovate your house, even though you might add certain things in your house, the address, the direction, the way that you are moving is always going to be the same. We could see certain qualities in certain individuals who were positive, who were negative, and we can still see the likes of them in today's society. So these are things that might not have much to do with the Sharia or religion, but they are proof that not everything in time needs to, in the evolving or the changing of time, needs to be thrown away. Inshallah, we will continue on with the rest of our topics in our next segments. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.